Alright, first time making a reaction video. Don't forget to support the original creator and the video itself. And yeah, enjoy the video. Also, thank you so much for 55 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. Alright, I'm actually... Oh, what the fuck? Okay, well, I think that's because my start recording button is 1. Yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this. What if an accurate T-Rex was in Jurassic Park? I'm actually curious to know because I love this franchise, and I know that things would be different if they, stopped focusing on the Velociraptors and focused more on this thing. So yeah, let's head right into it. All right. There you. Oh,
can
hello.
nature produce something even more?
Why are captions on? Okay. Okay.
More terrifying than fiction?
Probably not.
Tyrannosaurus Rex has been a cinematic icon of terror for millions.
That is true.
But might the real-life creature surpass InGen's creation? The T-Rex in the Jurassic franchise was largely accurate.
Because there's like so much inaccurate things about the T-Rex they had in the movie. Like one of the most common one being that, they can't see you if you don't move. They can see you. They have better eyesight than you think. And then there's just the fact that their bite force is just... it's something.
To the current understanding of the creature in the 1990s. However, 30 years of new discoveries and research have changed.
Oh yeah, I guess that is true. They didn't really know too much back then. So, and this was made in the 90s. So yeah, I guess you got to cut them some slack. Although I don't think this series is ever getting a reboot, but whatever.
The story of the most powerful predator North America has ever seen. In this episode, we will highlight some of the differences between the Tyrannosaurus of Jurassic Park and of the Cretaceous to identify 6 ways the real Tyrant Lizard King was more dangerous than was conceived in the mind of Michael Crichton.
I'm excited.
And stick around for a surprise bonus segment where we shake up the formula on the film franchise.
Alright, I'm curious to see what we got in store.
Number 1, agility.
Ooh.
Was Rexy, for example, more agile than the real T-Rex? Figuring out how dinosaurs could move has largely only been something testable in the last few decades. And the last few years have shown the assumption of Tyrannosaurus being speedy but slow to turn was dead wrong. In the Jurassic series, Tyrannosaurs are quick on their feet in thrilling scenes like the infamous car chase, but they are regularly outflanked. Raptors, humans, and even other giant carnivores have regularly been capable of getting around T-Rex, dodging their attacks, and in the latter case, toppling the tyrant reptiles. But contrary to the idea that...
yeah, the Rex did kind of get its ass kicked quite a few times, but it usually came out on top most of the time. Except in the Jurassic Park 3, and that's... well, it was, again, it was made in the 90s. If you remember that fight would have ended, like, in seconds if it was lore accurate to today's knowledge.
That big creatures are sluggish animals, the real tyrant reptiles were not reckless bruisers as once thought. Cutting-edge research such as a paper from 2019 found that the hip design in Tyrannosaurs especially were very well suited for quick turns and repositioning. Thanks to having evolved from small, nimble-footed predators having to navigate dense forests and uneven terrain, even the largest Tyrannosaurus would be extremely agile for an animal its size, scoring over twice as high as other big predators with even less mass to move around. Agility is not the same thing as running speed, and a fully grown T-Rex would be significantly slower than the car-chasing menace from the movies, but reality gives another workaround.
Yeah, because I didn't expect it to be as fast as, it was shown in the movie, but I don't expect it to be dumb, because from what I remember seeing is that T-Rex have also been just known to be way more intelligent than previously thought to be as well, so it'd probably be very smart with its slow speed and everything.
Juvenile and sub-adult Rexes grew faster in height and length than they did in weight, spending over a decade as still large but extremely fast and agile pursuit predators that could keep pace with a racehorse. These growing tyrants could carve out niches all to themselves, pursuing quicker prey than their parents, and a human would be a near-ideal meal for a growing T-Rex. That part from the end of The Lost World, the baby might have been even more predatory at an opportunity like that. Coincidentally, this kind of behavior fits a portion from the Michael Crichton novel not adapted into the film. The novel featured two Tyrannosaurus, an adult and a juvenile. The adult, not for lack of trying, actually doesn't kill anyone in the whole book.
Really? I never read the book, so I didn't know. I know there's some things in the books that weren't shown in the movies, especially since, from what I know, the books were way more gruesome. Like, I remember in the books, there was a scene where a bunch of those tiny little dinosaurs, the compies, I believe they're called. There was actually a scene in the book where a bunch of those were actually eating a newborn baby. Yeah, and that was pretty brutal. And then there's just the fact that John Hammond was a pretty shit person, too. So, yeah. Anyways, that's surprising to hear that it had no kills in the Lost World book, though. You'd think it would be, but okay. Well, let's see what's going on.
Whereas the juvenile T-Rex rips a man limb from limb. Number 2, eyesight.
Ah, yeah.
Exactly what is going on with the eyesight of the Tyrannosaurus in the Jurassic Park franchise has been debated for decades, often with contradictory information. Several scenes imply the InGen Rexes are capable of seeing stationary objects as food. Others show it cannot, or at the very least cannot without the help of other senses.
Yeah, it was, the eyesight of that thing was kind of inconsistent every now and then, so, yeah.
Like smell. So, we are instead going to look at the original intention by the makers of the series. In both the original film and the original novel, the InGen Tyrannosaurus cannot see things that are not moving. In the movie, it is treated as an actual paleontological hypothesis, whereas the book implies it was a side effect of the frog DNA splicing. In the real world, however, this was never a seriously considered hypothesis.
Really?
And the last decades have
I never knew that. Okay.
shown a wealth of information that Tyrannosaurus might well have had some of the best vision of any land animal to ever exist.
Yeah, I believe it was said to have binocular vision, which is really fucking scary for this thing to have that.
Modern relatives like crocodiles and birds are sight-based predators, using focused fields of vision to both track prey and gauge their strikes. This means their eyes also have to be attuned to rapid movement and focusing. One adaptation that helps with this is both eyes accustomed to light sensitivity, but also highly developed fovea, small depressions inside the back wall of the eye that sharpen focus. Most animals have it, but in birds and crocodilians, the fovea is very developed to both help them strike at a target in ambush from close distance and track the movement of a target from afar. It's likely Tyrannosaurus had the same adaptation. A 2006 study followed up on in 2011 indicated Tyrannosaurus had a visual acuity comparable, if not surpassing, eagles, with a binocular range of depth perception over 55 degrees. This granted T-Rex the ability to both focus in on close-up objects and see nearly over 3 times further than a human can. While designing the Tyrannosaurus for the films, the eyes were kept partially facing forwards, but not to the same degree, and with the snout being broadened compared to the real-life animal. This might explain some of the problems with the vision.
Seeing a T-Rex chasing you in the water has to be a terrifying thing to see.
As it would give the InGen animals less binocular vision and potentially a blind spot due to the thick snout. A real Tyrannosaurus could certainly see you when you were moving, and more likely than not would see you long before you saw them. Morning, noon, or night. Number 3.
Yeah, that's a pretty terrifying thought. What the fuck did I just do? What? Okay, what the fuck did I just do? Hold on. I need to put my hotkeys on something that isn't number keys, because they're clearly messing with the video.
And more likely than not would see you long before you saw them. Morning, noon, or night. Number 3,
quite the scary
size. Size does matter, and you would think that the filmmakers who created oversized...
Well, most of it. Well, in some certain cases. Yeah, you already know what we're talking about.
Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, and Raptors for the film would have done the same with the T-Rex. Whilst the adult Tyrannosaurus in the films do vary in size, they generally are longer and taller than most recorded specimens, especially if we go off individuals like Big Edie and Rexy by the end of her tenure.
Big Edie? Who the fuck is that? Okay.
However, if viewed from the front and checking the weight, one disparity becomes very obvious. InGen cooked up a bunch of lightweights. For the original film and all subsequent incarnations, the filmmakers modeled their T-Rexes after the most famous specimen at the American Natural History Museum. In the 1980s, this was the standard T-Rex for media and one of the largest, well-studied specimens at the time. The first trilogy's T-Rex, being about 37 to 40 feet long and 6 to 7 tons, was very close to accurate for the time. Since then, however, more material and more studies of even larger specimens like Sue and Scotty have shown that an adult T-Rex had the potential to become substantially more massive. New techniques like volumetric modeling, which can more accurately account for mass of things like soft tissue, have demonstrated some of the large...
Yeah, it's amazing how far the technology for all this stuff has come. Sorry, that's my dog. Someone's probably crossing by on the sidewalk.
Known Tyrannosaurus had the potential to nearly double some of the initial weights given early on in the franchise. Even at the largest we saw her, Rexy, by the time of the final movie, was usually given a weight between 8 to 9 tons, several tons lighter than the larger estimates for the current bigger, well-studied specimens. And while the true maximum size for Tyrannosaurus is unknown, it is likely some lucky individuals got even larger. More mass would equate to superior durability and muscle force, meaning a real-life Tyrannosaurus would be substantially harder to topple or wrestle down in a confrontation.
Yeah, because I imagine getting hit by one of these things would not be fun at all.
Against a rival of similar size, something the film Tyrannosaurs have a hard time with.
Yeah, they really did just... They kind of... Whenever it comes to they were working with what they had, I think. Unless I missed something here. But if they went back and remade Jurassic Park with, you know, the knowledge we have about T-Rex today, I'm curious to see how that would go.
Number 4, silence. Later in this video, you'll find out why this section is important. The T-Rex in the film franchise do have one consistency. They are rarely quiet. This certainly makes for more dramatic cinema with...
Yeah, they would be screaming all the time.
The iconic footstep and thundering roar, but in terms of hunting and moving about with stealth, this causes huge problems.
Yeah.
Tying in with the prior debate on the vision, it can be speculated...
Yeah, with how slow they are, I imagine it would make things, it would make it hard to hunt every now and then, but I imagine if, you know, they're as quiet as it's being made out to be, I imagine hunting prey would be a lot easier.
That if InGen T-Rexes have an easier time seeing a moving target, one reason they might roar constantly is to scare a stationary prey item into running so it can see them better. Such as this infamous moment from the third movie.
They were so stupid for doing that. I was like, what are you doing? They told y'all not to move and they just... it was like they had like actual dumb blonde horror movie mentality right there at that scene. Like that was just...
There are a few times the InGen animals are able to sneak around, but many of these are when the Tyrannosaurus isn't actively hunting, such as the sequence from Dominion of Rexy searching out a dead deer, or in The Lost World when the buck and doe Tyrannosaurus snuck up on the hunter camp investigating...
That scene was terrifying as a kid.
the smell of their infant. In almost every other instance, however, they stopped to roar before charging, like here in the beginning of Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, that was mainly for a dramatic effect, I imagine.
The real T-Rex was not only much more stealthy, but furthermore, this thing would be silent virtually all of the time. Large footprints likely belonging to Tyrannosaurus Rex have been discovered and show the species had extensive soft tissue padding on the bottom of its feet, similar to animals such as elephants and tigers, both of which can be deceptively quiet even when not actively trying to be. The dense tissue would muffle the footsteps even over debris on the forest floor. Studies on the cochlea, a portion of the inner ear, also indicate Tyrannosaurus was very perceptive to low-frequency noises. Because large...
Yeah, there's actually videos on YouTube where they have videos where it shows what the T-Rex is thought to sound like originally, and none of them are loud as shit like they are in the movie. They're quiet and pretty unsettling to hear too. Like, I get the chills when I listen to that.
Animals often produce low-frequency calls. It's likely Tyrannosaurus would be capable of vocalizing in a way a human couldn't even hear clearly, much like elephants. But this isn't to say it wasn't capable of roaring. Large birds and crocodilians are able to put out loud bellows and roars of their own. It's just that it would only do so when the situation called for it. If Hammond had stalked...
Yeah, because from what I don't think animals usually just start making noise for no reason. Unless you're my dog.
Isla Nublar with Sue, there wouldn't be any forewarning when she was coming. Number 5, bite effectiveness.
Oh, this is the big one. This is the big one. This is what I've been waiting for, because their bite force is fucking gnarly.
Official stats for the Jurassic Park franchise do list the near-legendary bite force Tyrannosaurus Rex had, but this comes off more as an attribute we are informed of rather than a feat shown on screen.
Yeah.
Nearly every single time an adult Tyrannosaurus bites down on a large animal, even a throat bite, it is jostled off.
Yeah, that's the thing that annoyed the shit out of me whenever I found out what the T-Rex bite, how strong the T-Rex bite really is. Then just because, you know, hell, even back then, you'd imagine that, you know, it would have clamped down and just kept its mouth on their neck. Like, like that right here, right now, where it's showing the fight between the Rex and the Spino from the third movie. Like, that happens, like, immediately into the fight. Like, if it was lore accurate to, like, the information we have today, that fight would have... This right here, this is already the end of the fight. That's it. Like, this is it. It's literally biting its head off.
Doesn't rend flesh or crush bone, and typically fails to do much damage. This does make for a more dynamic back-and-forth confrontation against other giant predators on screen, but something seems lacking. It just so happens a design choice for the Tyrannosaurus's film appearance might actually explain this. Dr. Robert Baker, one of the paleontologists who was consulted by ILM when designing the Tyrannosaurus for her big screen debut, noted that the designers did make use of most references he and his colleagues provided to make the T-Rex for the film as accurate to understanding at the time as possible.
So they did do some research. Okay. Well, I imagine they would, but...
One big exception, the teeth.
Oh, no,
Tyrannosaurus has very distinctive teeth amongst its own family, serrated, slightly recurved, and thick as railroad spikes. These were optimally built for transferring immense bite forces into a target. Even if the Tyrannosaurus was forced to pull away, if it bit down on the limb or neck of a target, it would almost assuredly split bone and rend flesh before they could free themselves. Thinner teeth would not transfer these forces as efficiently, nor be able to secure as good of a hold. Not a problem for large carnosaurs like Giganotosaurus, which had a respectable bite force of their own, and teeth more optimized for shredding softer tissues. T-Rex is a different issue though. But because thinner, more knife-like teeth were thought to look scarier on screen, that's exactly what the designers went with. And because Tyrannosaurus
I think they were more focused on dramatic effect and, you know, aesthetic more than accurate info-wise, I guess. Because, like I said, that fight between the Rex and the Spino would have been over in seconds if they kept the same. If they took the info we have today and kept the fight the same, because that Spino would have been dead the moment that Rex chomped on its neck. And another reason why I think they changed that up is because not everyone knows this, but whenever it came to filming Jurassic Park 3, within the fight between the Rex and the Spino, I'm not entirely accurate on what happened there, but the animatronic they used for the T-Rex actually ended up breaking, and I think they kind of just improv'd it after that, and that's kind of why the Spino ended up being the main antagonist, I guess. Which, you know, you could have done that without putting in a T-Rex there. I mean, you could have kept the T-Rex, but you could have done that without, you know, having the two in there fighting, I guess. Better just had another Spino, I guess. Because personally, if it was up to me, I would have kept them both in the movie, but not had them fight, because the T-Rex would obviously win. But I think keeping the Spino as the main antagonist would have been good, because, you know, I don't think it would have been too good to have, you know, a T-Rex as the main antagonist for 2 movies, because it was kind of that for the Lost World movie, I guess. But, you know, I wouldn't do that for Jurassic Park 3.
relied on securing a good hold to apply the full crushing force of its bite. This means even if the film Tyrannosaurus could bite down as hard as a real-life one of the same weight, it would have a much harder time hanging on and applying that force as effectively. Number 6, temperament.
Ooh.
This might sound like a strange category, but consider what happens virtually every single time a Tyrannosaurus encounters another large dinosaur in the franchise. The Spino in JP3, the Indominus in Jurassic World, and the Giga in Dominion and Prologue. The moment the Tyrannosaurus
Yeah, because they do be acting pissed off a lot of times. They just see something and they just, you know, attack on sight.
encountered them, the Rex became aggressive and started a fight. They lost.
Yeah.
The only times a T-Rex has won a fight in the franchise against another big carnivore often involved lots of outside complicating factors, like the multi-dino melee and control chip situation in Camp Cretaceous, or the Therizinosaurus and Chance Luck
What the hell is Camp Cretaceous? I don't know.
snagging Rexy the win in Dominion. They certainly can win battles, but most of the time they rush in and it doesn't end well for them. This aggression towards other large animals also appears to be nearly exclusive to Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, they really did do the T-Rex dirty in these movies, didn't they?
The Dino Tracker website and other media found around the time of Dominion even lists Tyrannosaurus as extremely aggressive, much more so than other large carnivores like Giganotosaurus. The moment they see a potential rival, they rush in and start attacking, managing to land a few hits before getting overpowered. The real Tyrannosaurus absolutely did fight other dinosaurs, including a menagerie of formidable herbivores and its own kind.
Yeah, I bet.
The most notable set of evidence supporting this is the following. Healed wounds on the face and body of multiple Tyrannosaurus specimens show clear signs of battle scars earned fighting the most dangerous predator in their time. However, even if Tyrannosaurus was territorial towards outsiders, many of these wounds show signs of healing, a testament not only to the resilience of this apex predator, but also indicators that the fights were not necessarily reckless death brawls. The loser knew when to back off, and the winner knew not to be heedless. When you consider how many
So to me it sounds like more of a territorial fight. Mostly.
dangerous herbivores they would have to go up against the next time they got hungry and had to hunt, it makes sense to be careful and not rack up unnecessary wounds.
Yeah.
With this kind of competition, by the time a Tyrannosaurus reached adulthood, they would have accumulated a wealth of experience telling them when to be careful and when to be aggressive. Fatalities certainly did happen from time to time, but this, coupled with Tyrannosaurus having intelligence at least on par with many modern predators, indicates they were capable of knowing when to pick their fights. Consider that a real-life Tyrannosaurus took at least 2 decades to reach adult sizes, whereas the InGen versions had accelerated growth rates, putting them at near adult size within a fraction of that time. Development and experience.
Well, I think InGen had some like growth thing that like sped up the growth, I think. I'm not too accurate on that, but I think that's why they why that happened. I think that or just more misinformation.
Experience would be 2 completely different ball games. Strategy, experience, and a moderated aggression are all things that nature's design cultivated better than InGen's. Bonus section.
Oh, okay, let's see.
Now that we've covered some of the differences, let's consider some of the major changes that would have happened in the film franchise if we replaced the cinematic incarnation with a real-life Tyrannosaurus.
This is what I'm really here for.
Because they are one of the best studied and complete specimens known, we will be using the Sioux specimen, giving us a T-Rex who is roughly 40 feet long, 12.5 feet tall at the hips, and potentially breaking the scales at more than 10.5 tons.
Alright, show me what you got.
1. The car chase. One would think a slower Tyrannosaurus would make this scene safer. Unfortunately, not so much. With no booming footfalls to wake up Dr. Malcolm, he would have a much harder time noticing Sue returning and would...
Yeah, I guess he really would get murked before he knew what the hell was going on. Because... he'll probably wouldn't even be awake by the time he's dead.
Be calling out to the others. The Tyrannosaurus, curious and hungry, would sneak back to the paddock area and have a nice meal. Dr. Malcolm is grabbed and pulverized by the time the car even gets started up. And if Sue is still hungry, Dr. Sattler and Muldoon might find themselves in a dire situation.
Yep.
2. Raptor versus Rex.
I think
with better eyesight
I think the outcome would still be the same with this, honestly.
And agility, Sue would have noticed the other raptor in the room a lot quicker. The big one likely wouldn't get the chance to pounce upon the Tyrannosaur back as she is grabbed and instantly crushed in gory display.
Yeah.
With the full force of the jaws smashing down onto her body, the raptor's internal and potentially externals pop like a balloon. It would probably be a good chance for the humans to run. 3.
Yeah, that would... I would have loved to see something like that in the actual movie. That looked cool as shit. Alright, this is the big one.
Spino versus T-Rex. Flashing forward to Jurassic Park 3, an accurate Tyrannosaurus would be a lot more cautious upon confronting an irate Spinosaurus.
Yeah.
Interviews with the director of Camp Cretaceous note that the Spinosaurus has an extremely thick and resilient hide, possibly explaining why it's so easily shrugged off the bite from the Tyrannosaurus in the film. With the Spinosaurus up against a more experienced combatant, however, it quickly runs up against a wall. Sheer bulk. Even though the Spinosaurus is taller and longer, it is several tons lighter than the more stable and much more massive Sue. A more careful combatant, the Tyrannosaurus baits an attack and counters with surprising agility, biting down on the arms or neck of the sail-backed bruiser. Stockier teeth work in tandem with a monstrous bite force. Even that hide can only blunt so much force, especially because the Tyrannosaurus would be much harder to throw off thanks to a massive weight advantage and a firmer hold.
See, I knew
Bones fracture and blood vessels explode, and the Spinosaurus would be wise to retreat.
See, I knew the outcome of that fight would be different. I always knew this. Anytime this was brought up, I would always explain this. Like, the outcome of that fight was bullshit, and I was right. I knew I was right.
4. Main Street Fight. When
Street
confronted
Fight?
with the
Oh,
Indominus
this.
Rex, one of two things might happen.
Well, there's actually a lot of things that could happen in this one, because we're doing correct information, and, you know, you'd have to apply that to this hybrid, too, because, you know, that thing is still T-Rex, so it'd be kind of interesting to see what an accurate Indominus Rex hybrid would be like, too.
The less likely but still possible outcome is that the hybrid attempts to communicate with the T-Rex like she had the raptor.
Oh, they could have teamed up. Oh, I didn't think about that. That would... Good lord, they could have added so much scary shit in this movie.
Given she does have some of the same genetic framework. However, with how aggressive and wounded the hybrid was at this point anyways, the fight would still happen, but with a different aggressor.
Okay.
Being faster and taller, the Indominus would manage to land multiple claw wounds on the Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, that
but
would
the
be
stocky frame and robust gastralia and ribcage blunt the damage. Countering, the T-Rex would employ their enhanced agility and greater mass to avoid getting toppled and throw their full weight into the hybrid. Considering the Indominus was knocked around repeatedly by a Rexy almost half this Tyrannosaurus's mass, the hybrid is not keeping their footing. Likely targeting the hybrid's weapons, Sue bites down hard on the first limb in grabbing range. With so much force and jaws that are not letting go, the arm is instantly shattered, if not torn off. This fight won't end as quickly as it did in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I imagine it would be one hell of a kick-ass fight, though. And the T-Rex would probably win, too. Because while it is definitely T-Rex, it's only half T-Rex, hence the name of being a hybrid. So yeah, an actual regular T-Rex might actually beat an Indominus Rex. I think that's pretty cool.
Fallen Kingdom Prologue. Considering how much this unlucky individual didn't even notice Rexy sneaking up on him, and he's now dealing with a Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, he still would have died. I mean, he died regardless, because... How did he die in the movie? The Mosasaur, yeah, that's why. Because the Mosasaur got free.
Who's much quieter and can see much better even in the rain, his chances of making it off the island alive sunk before the marine reptile even got involved.
Yeah.
Instead of stopping to roar and giving him a chance to run, the hungry Sue would already be bearing down on him like a silent stalker from a slasher movie. This unlucky bastard is very, very dead.
Yeah.
6. Giga versus T-Rex.
Ooh.
Moving ahead to the final confrontations, the first interaction between the two we see on screen in the Biosyn Sanctuary might not even escalate to a full-on fight, considering that the Giga...
Yeah, I guess with going back to the temperament, I guess they'd probably just, find each other and then, just both back off, I guess. Because they're both around the same size. T-Rex, the Giga being bigger, but the T-Rex having a bigger bite force. But I imagine that they would probably both just, back off, I guess. Because, well, none of them are hurt. Then, one of them's eating food. They know when to pick their fights. I imagine the Giga would know to pick its fights too. Well, maybe. I'm not really sure. And, well, yeah, I guess the fight probably never would have happened there.
Giga was much less aggressive than the InGen T-Rex. The confrontation might change into just a brief struggle and the two mutually deciding to avoid each other. If the second battle at the courtyard does still happen, the odds might be quite different, and the Giga would have a much messier battle on its hands. The Carnosaur would be longer and taller for better reach, but would have substantially less stability, much less agility, and now the weight advantage would be reversed. Depending on which of the official stats are used, a large real-life Tyrannosaurus might be several tons heavier than the Biosyn Apex Predator. A brawl between the two that escalated would be an awesome sight to see, but one critical difference might swing the odds. In the battle against Rexy, the Giga often leveraged its greater weight and mass to swing her around once the Tyrannosaurus failed to grab on and counter. Against a much more stable, more agile, and much heavier Sue, this wouldn't work. If Sue got the same moment Rexy did when she managed to bite down on the Giga's face, the more robust teeth and stockier frame of the real Tyrannosaurus would have inflicted a messy wound and likely resulted in the Giga instead getting thrown around. The Carnosaur knows what's good for it. It will run. Fatal or not, the true king...
It'd probably bite the top part of its jaw off, like, it'd be like that... What happened to that one alligator I saw on the news once that there was like an alligator that like got hit by like a boat motor where it got like the top part of its mouth like ripped off by the motor, which was quite the gruesome sight. And imagine something like that would have happened with the bite it had like on its top part of the mouth just there.
King of the tyrant reptiles would reign over the valley.
Oh, I guess that's it. Huh, neat. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope you all have a good day. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want, and yeah, have a good one, y'all. See ya.